Welcome into this special edition podcast on CBS42.com. I am Josh Zavadil, and I am joined today by University of Alabama senior and soon-to-be graduate Kristen Bolden. How are you today?
I'm all right.
Have you had a good day in which we are recording this?
Well, my phone died this morning. I've already gone through the saga of that, but now
Okay.
I have the tablet, so we're doing well
So
now.
you're doing well. You're having a good day.
Yeah, I'm glad that you didn't add sixth year senior, even though I just did, but you know.
She's taking a victory lap after her victory lap.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyways, we are joined here today to talk about an event that is approaching. Kind of hard for me to believe. It's been almost 3 years since the April 27th storms, and you and I have at least a bit of a connection to the storms in terms of Tuscaloosa because we were both students there at the time. For you, take us back to that day. I know for myself, the week prior to that had really scared me because we had the April 15th tornado, and we didn't take cover. My brother and I didn't take cover in our apartment because we were like, it never happens. And then
Right.
it touches down and does damage. And that had really freaked me out and scared me. So leading up to April 27th, I was much more cognizant of the weather and what was going to be going on. So I knew there was a threat, but was that something that you were aware of before that day happened?
Yeah, I mean, I keep up with the weather kind of incessantly just because I have always been a fan. I don't know of the weather. I
Big
don't know.
fan.
Yeah, huge fan. I don't really know how to put that, but yeah, I've always kind of kept up with it. And that, the April 15th one, the week before or 2 weeks before, I kind of kept up with because it hit near Shelton, and one of my friends lived in a house up near there. And actually their trampoline got blown out of their backyard, or maybe a rogue trampoline got blown into their backyard. Either way, there was a trampoline involved, and it freaked me out. But yeah, I guess that day I was a little more aware because that morning I woke up and that kind of those straight line winds and that thunderstorm, that really bad one, went through about 5 a.m. that morning. And so I woke up with that, and that moved on, and I thought that was it. I was like, oh, well, I've survived. And then, I checked my phone a couple hours later, and it had hit my hometown, and there were trees down everywhere. People had trees in their roofs and everything. And so I kind of kept up with it for the rest of the day. And then about 4 o'clock, that's when I got freaked out.
Yeah, I remember waking up that morning, and my bed was right up against the window, and I remember hearing just the torrential downpours it was one pour, it wasn't downpours. I remember hearing the rain coming off the apartment and thinking that that's the loudest I had heard it since I'd lived there. And yeah, the rest of that day I thought, okay, everything's fine, and I think I'd gone to the Ferg for a meeting with somebody, and I had checked Twitter as everybody does all day long, and I had seen that there were some deaths from a tornado in Mississippi, and I noticed the humidity that day. After those storms passed through, it was really warm and it was really humid, and the sun had come out. And if you know anything about tornadoes, that's generally apparently not a good
Right.
combination of things. So then, I went back to my apartment, and obviously the big tornado that ravaged the city dropped down. I guess it was probably about 5:30, I think,
Yeah,
maybe.
it's 5:13.
5:30. You remember the actual time?
Well, I remember because we have it was 5:11 to 5:13 or something like that, because I remember I went to that memorial service and we had the moment of silence.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. And it dropped down and changed the city of Tuscaloosa forever. And that's not really an exaggeration at all.
No.
A lot of lives were lost. The main drag for college students, 15th Street was just obliterated. Missed campus, thankfully.
Yeah.
But then went on to Alberta City. It hit Holt. After the storm, after it passed and you realized the magnitude of the damage and everything, did anything change for you? Because I know a lot of people talk about how it changed their perception. It changed the way they deal with storms, the way they think about storms. Did it change any of that for you?
Absolutely. When I got back, because I decided to leave campus. We were in Rowan Johnson basement, and a couple of classmates of mine that had stayed on campus because we had a class during the first tornado watch area alert or whatever. And then we stayed on campus, and we went from Rowan Johnson to Gorgas, and then, you know, everyone kept saying, oh, there's another one coming, there's another front coming, like, we got to stay here. And I was like, I need to go back to my apartment, which sounds like a dumb idea, but I had to hear, or I had to see if something had happened. And so I got back to my apartment, and we only lost a few shingles, which blew my mind because like I said, it's right at the corner of 10th Avenue and 15th Street, which were both just demolished. And so I walked down the street with my neighbor down 15th Street, and we walked to a little ways past Hargrove and Hackberry, and I could see the Home Depot sign. And normally you can't see it. Mm-hmm. And I could see, you know, just nothing but things that were leveled. So, yeah, as soon as I saw that, saw basically a war zone, that's when I realized, like, it was a lot bigger than I thought. And yeah, I just remember it made me think of like in the 1998 tornadoes, April 8th, I think. Mm-hmm. That took out a church that a lot of my friends go to. And it was so sad because they had just built like a brand new, not a fellowship hall, you know, just the actual church part, whatever. The tornado came down right on top of it. Oh, it was so beautiful. And then it was gone. But so I guess it kind of made me think of that, because you don't think it's ever going to hit where you are. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's in your face. So now I'm a lot more, even though I did check the weather kind of like a crazy person before, now it's like if there's any chance for storms, I'm on it, which not as much anymore, but like the first maybe year and a half after, because there were the storms, the tornadoes in January. Mm-hmm. Less than a year after, and those freaked me out. So I drove to my mom's house because I just didn't want to be in Tuscaloosa. And then it ended up hitting Trussville and Center Point, which is near Pell City. Yeah. So great. Good job. But, you know, I definitely became more self-aware, like it could really happen. Yeah. So
I think those first couple, well, even more than the first couple months, I know for myself, I had to get to a point where if I knew there were going to be storms overnight, I had to get to a point where I would actually allow myself to go to bed.
It wasn't even just storms, like, because the January storms, when I drove home, I was up till 6 a.m. until I knew that we were okay. And even like I stayed home. I went home the day after the April 27th tornado, and I stayed until a full week after. I went back home the Wednesday after to Tuscaloosa, and because there wasn't as much damage, I guess, in Pell City or across St. Clair County, even though Shoal Creek got hit with like an EF5 or something. Even though those places got hit, they still did like the tornado warning sirens because it was the first Wednesday of the month, and that, like, I panicked. Mm-hmm. And then the next month I was in Tuscaloosa, and I was walking on campus to meet someone, and they went off, and everyone around me panicked because it just brought back like an immediate reaction.
And I know it may not be a thing so much now with a lot of students on campus who were not there during that time, but I do remember, I mean, the sirens still bother me, and I'm sure they still bother everybody who heard them that day. But I can identify with that. I remember walking to campus with my classmates, and you hear that tornado siren. That's just a routine check.
And they even tell you beforehand, right, like it's just a routine, and they don't do them if they know there's going to be bad weather. So you know it's okay, but at the same time, like, you hear it, and it's just an immediate, like, yeah. Well, I know what happened last time, so
right.
Got to get to a safe place.
Tuscaloosa, you know, as a city, we mentioned earlier, was changed, obviously. And I know in the moments and the months after that storm, what was really neat to see for me was just the goodness and the kind-heartedness of the people, not only in Tuscaloosa, but in Alabama. Just
Tumors for Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, just
War
coming.
Eagle, y'all.
Uh-oh, might make some enemies.
I don't care.
Oh, well. But
Well, I did that article for Mark. So.
oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, name dropping Mark Torrance on here.
Oh, thanks, Mark.
Yep, thanks, Mark. But anyways, back to the original topic. It was really great to see the kind-heartedness of just everybody in Alabama just banding together to bring Tuscaloosa back up to its feet. And now, 3 years later, you drive through the places that were hit by this storm, and much of the areas have risen above the ashes and are back to a place where they can thrive.
Yeah.
So for you, what's it like having known Tuscaloosa before? Where 15th Street had all these nice restaurants that we grew to know and love because we had been there for a couple years.
I'd actually been to Hokkaido the night before.
Really?
Yeah.
And then now Hokkaido, while it's back, it's not in the same location.
Still terrible parking, but
Yeah. That's I haven't been in Tuscaloosa as a resident for quite a while, but that's got to be something that's you never fully grasp.
Yeah, especially driving through. I didn't drive down 15th Street for a month because I just couldn't do it yet. And so I drove down the month after, and that I took pictures, and I don't have them anymore because they were on an old phone. They might be on my computer, but I took pictures because I still couldn't believe it. And even though I was seeing it and I was surrounded by it, I started sobbing in my car because I just couldn't believe that it was like that. And now it's weird because when I first started seeing things be rebuilt, all the memories I had were just of rubble. And now that they're rebuilt, I remember what they were before as actual buildings. So it's kind of weird how it didn't really go in a circle, but it kind of went in this weird little cycle, kind of backtracking.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm back to where oh, well, that's what it looked like before. This is what it looks like now. Okay. But it's still weird to look and see where buildings were, and it's still just a field.
And
there's
still
a for sale sign.
Right.
You know?
There's still areas, I think, on 15th Street that have not been rebuilt or even torn down.
Like where the dentist's office was supposed to be, or a chiropractor, those places are for sale because they've moved their businesses or whatever. But yeah, it's still weird to see. All the things that are being built now are mostly condos and student apartments and stuff like that. And then the regular businesses. And then, of course, our shopping center that's going to happen. Yay. But after I move, of course. But, yeah, it's still weird to see what was there in my mind than to remember that for a good almost year it was just nothing but rubble. Mm-hmm. So.
And we mentioned earlier, I think, there are a lot of students now who will either be enrolling soon or have enrolled that are not really going to have that memory of Tuscaloosa, the pre-April 27th, 2011 memory. That's got to be weird, especially for you as a student, knowing that you're part of this class we're mostly freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
During
not me,
not you, mostly freshmen during that time, and so the students who were there, who were in the thick of everything on that day, are by and large almost gone from Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. And besides, like you said, grad students and everything, it's weird being a part of this. I don't want to say special class because I certainly don't like having the honor of knowing what it's like. But at the same time, it's kind of weird because even though I can't tell you half the people in my class and where they're going and whatnot, we all are connected by the fact that we did have to go through something like that. And they may not have had the same reaction to it that I did, and they may have gone through something even worse than I did because of it. But we still have that memory that we know what it's like before, we know what it was like during it, and we've been there for the after, unless they graduated before I did,
It's just an interesting thought to me, and it didn't occur to my coworker Sebastian or I. He's sitting next to me waving. He does not have a microphone. It occurred to us earlier in the year that this was going to be the graduation really in May for that
Yeah.
class. And it's just crazy to think that it's been 3 years since those storms had, ravaged not just Tuscaloosa, but much of Alabama.
Yeah. Because
Um,
like my dad and my sister were living in Coleman in the time, and that got hit a couple hours before Tuscaloosa did. So I was on my phone during class, like trying to make sure they were okay, and then it hit us.
Yeah.
So
Given you've been there, you've seen Tuscaloosa rise back up.
T-Town never down.
Yeah, all the catchphrases and hashtags you could ever want.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on just how well the city has progressed since the tornado? To me, it's been quite incredible just to see the progress. Mayor Walt Maddox and just the entire city has been able to put forth to get Tuscaloosa back on its feet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last fall I had the chance to cover. They had a town hall meeting at the Chamber of Commerce, and so I went to that, and they all kind of split into groups and got a feel for what people would want to see happen with the rest of the FEMA money that was coming in. And now he's going district by district and doing town hall meetings, and they've had packed houses every single month or every single time he does it. And a lot of the places, the last town hall meeting was District 7, and the one before that was Alberta and stuff. So seeing the response to, I guess, having the town hall meetings and hearing what people want to see happen, because there's still room to rebuild, obviously, especially in places like Alberta. It's just amazing that they have been able to come this far so quickly. I mean, my dad made the comment. My dad is he's a brick mason and a supervisor at construction companies or whatever, and he kind of asked me, he was like, well, why is there still rubble? And this was a few months later. He was like, why is there still rubble and everything? And I was like, you don't understand how much of Tuscaloosa city and county this is, and that's just us. There are other places, Birmingham, and then where he was in Coleman, you don't understand how much damage there was. And so just from that, a little less than a year after, to what it looks like now is pretty incredible.
This is now, again, the second year, I guess, really, that we've had to acknowledge that this is the anniversary of the event.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you do on that day? I mean, do you observe a moment of silence or anything like that?
No, the first year after there was the memorial service at Coleman Coliseum, and I went to that just because I felt like I needed to go. I just needed to say okay, I'm okay. Yeah. And I still wasn't 100%, but I felt like I was okay enough to go. And so I did that. And then last year, I didn't really do anything. I changed my little profile picture on Facebook to that houndstooth ribbon, and people know what it's for, and they know that I was really. I don't think as many people know how really affected I was, but they understand that we all kind of were. But yeah, I don't really do anything special or out of the ordinary. I just take a second to remember okay.
Yeah, I just say that because it's always, especially for me, I guess I'm very maybe sentimental or emotional when it comes to those things. So I always try to at least be in Tuscaloosa if I can.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make I make lighthearted posts a lot of the time on social media, and testimonials. But I don't. I mean, I try to make at least one serious one. Yeah. Even if it's just sharing an article acknowledging that today is that day. I try not to go too crazy, but yeah, I mean, I think everyone knows. Yeah. So.
And as much, I mean, it was an awful day. It was an awful experience for so many people. But I think, as you move on and you think about what happened, maybe it's just me. It does give you for me it changed the way just that I live my life. in a moment's notice, things can change instantly. And I know for me personally, at the time, I was a very materialistic college kid who didn't take anything seriously. And so it really, was just a shock to me. And so April is always a special month, whether it's because of a bad memory or not. It always is something that, at least for me, jogs my brain and puts me back into, this mind frame that we have a lot of things to be grateful for in life, and we don't need to take them for granted. And although there were a lot of awful things that happened that day, I really think there are some positives that have been able to come from such an awful event.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the places, like right now in Chandra's class, we're working with nonprofits, and we're working with the Red Cross of West Alabama. And they recently moved to a new location because their old one was damaged in the storm. And, we're working to kind of help them with communications and everything. And so a lot of places, a lot of businesses that have been destroyed, outside of a place like that just got the chance to move to a new location. A lot of places have remodeled. They've been able to better serve the community in a way. So, I don't know that it's changed me and my personal outlook, but I know that in general, Tuscaloosa itself has changed to, I guess, be a more self-serving community. Or to the people,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
that made it sound like Tuscaloosa is selfish and terrible.
No, but I mean, and you mentioned that, but I mean, their reaction and their transformation into that kind of thing, it almost happened instantly.
Yeah.
I mean, after it happened, you had neighbors and just people who didn't know each other going door to door, helping each other, doing whatever they could to just be a good person in that time of struggle. So, I mean, I definitely understand what you mean when you say that. Wrapping things up here, we appreciate you joining us here today. It's obviously an event that is hard to talk about, and it's not a happy thing, but it's been 3 years since this happened, and it's crazy to think about. And you were there, and you're part of this last class of students. Finally. So we appreciate you joining us. How can people out there, if they would like to keep track of you on Twitter?
At K Boldens, KBOLDENS. I had to think about how to spell my name.
For all of your soon-to-be college graduate updates.
Yes. There's that. And then I'll add pretty much anyone on Facebook. That sounds bad, but yeah.
We might have to edit that out.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Edit that.
I will edit that out. But anyways, thank you for joining us today, and we hope you all have a great rest of the week whenever you're listening to this, and we hope you'll enjoy more of our podcasts here on CBS42.com.